Clinical Fitness and Wellness's interview series. I'm here with Carly Feigan, nutritionist that works with all of my clients, my weight loss needs. Hello, Carly. How are you?
I'm great, Steph. How are you doing today?
Everything's great. So it's great to finally catch up with you about some of these questions that have been given to me by a lot of my clients, and they've been showing me articles and scientific studies, and it's getting to the point now where it's pretty mainstream, the caloric restriction and intermittent fasting. A lot of people are doing that. They're also incorporating other styles of eating like ketogenic diet or paleo. So we're going to get into a couple of different things, how they kind of work with exercise, without exercise, because obviously I'm a fitness person and you're a nutrition. So put those two together and you have, plan for success right there. So I guess let's jump in. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you became interested in nutrition and working with people.
Well, okay. So let's see, how far back should I go? I guess, I was a biology major when I first entered college, and, that was my passion. And so once I finished 2 years of college biology, I said, oh, let's switch gears, let's pivot. I took a year off to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I was interested in health and wellness, but not sure how. So anyway, to make a long story short, I went back to school, got my degree in nutrition from Queens College. And after that, I followed a slightly unconventional path. I did not go for my master's. I didn't go for my RD, but I do have certifications in two areas, and that's from the American Council on Exercise. I took the lifestyle and weight management program and got certified with them, and I also have a certification in American herbology. So that's my background, and then worked at Equinox Fitness as the nutrition director from New York for 2.5 years. Until I started my private practice, which I'm pretty much doing the same and specializing in weight management.
That's great. And you've been very successful with all of my clients. I think you almost have like 100% success rate at this point. And you work with my mom as well.
Close.
My mom's a tough one too. And you managed to get her going, and she's lost 50 plus pounds and she's rocking right now. So thank you for that. And for all my people too, they're very happy. Because I'm in fitness, obviously, right? So I could help people on a fitness level, but at the end of the day, I tell people this all the time. You could lose weight without exercise.
Yes.
Adding exercise in certainly is a good thing to add into your life. You're going to be more active, right? You're going to be healthier. You're going to have more endurance. You're going to have more stamina. Life is just going to be easier if you're a fitter person on the planet. But now we have a weight loss component. So people come to me and they say, oh, I want to work out 5 days a week and I want to lose this weight. And I tell them that's probably not going to work out for you. It's going to be overload. And I think you need to get this weight loss controlled on the eating side. I like that you want to be fit and you want to dedicate that amount of time to it. But I think the eating component is super important. So that being said, obviously I'm in fitness. I'm also a musician. So my studio is a gym, as well as you've seen me in my other gyms that I work at in New York City as well. So let's just jump right into it and get into this caloric restriction and intermittent fasting. Let's start out. Give me a description of both, how you apply it with your clients, and how do you put it together that it makes sense for them? Because people who come to you for weight loss, there's always other things that are in the mix that make it sometimes complicated for people. And how do you choose how you want to apply maybe caloric restriction with a client, or use intermittent fasting? Like what is the thing that you see them and you analyze it and you go, oh, I think this might be a better path for them? Or do you let them choose on their own?
Those are great questions. I can break it down. It's actually pretty simple. So if someone comes to me that's already exercising, or they're already working with you, and they need to lose maybe 20 pounds or less, for instance, that would be the typical patient that I will use, my typical program, which is, some calorie restriction and balancing their macros and micronutrients. They're already exercising. They need to lose some weight. They think they're doing the food thing right, but they're not. Usually they're eating too few calories, and expecting and wondering why the weight isn't going down. So these are perfect people to use calorie restriction with. I probably would not recommend intermittent fasting because they don't need it, and they'll be able to eat in a regimented way. If they're already exercising, their mindset is already more disciplined. In someone who has more weight to lose than 40, 50, 60 pounds, and they're in the obese category, these are perfect candidates for more intermittent fasting. And what I do is I will let them know that intermittent fasting means that they have a wider variety of meals and foods that they can, their variety is much better and different, not better, but different. They'll be able to eat more high calorie foods, but the discipline comes from when they're eating and when they're fasting. So intermittent fasting is usually you eat for 6 hours, fast for 18, or eat for 8 hours and fast for 16 hours. And that's pretty regimented. They would have to stay on a very regimented schedule of eating, but the variety comes, and the flexibility, I should say, comes with what they're able to eat in those eating periods. And they'll probably lose weight a little bit faster, slightly faster than just using calorie restriction with these people. So I reserve the intermittent fasting question or conversation. Of course, I let them choose which they'd like to do, but I reserve the intermittent fasting question for patients who need to lose, maybe 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds and up.
Okay, that's actually a great description, because I wonder sometimes how you deal with everyone's very different. I personally do the intermittent fasting. I do 18 hours, and I like that because I'm in fitness, and I think the higher density foods, the higher calorie foods are necessary if you're going to train hard, right? So I could eat a big piece of protein. I could have avocados. I could have eggs. I could have like macadamia nuts and things that are highly dense that you probably wouldn't be able to eat if you were on a caloric restriction diet. So, and it makes life very simple. You have a couple of hours to eat. You can I start eating around 1 o'clock. It's like a brunch, and I have a dinner, and that's it. And those dinners and brunches are pretty dense with the foods that I'm eating. I find that works for me. Let's maybe talk a little bit about how you feel about with the exercise and without the exercise. Do you feel that it enhances the weight loss? Does that happen right away? Because some people that you've sent me have been morbidly obese, and they literally have to they can't just jump into exercise. So there is a little psychological component. These people are obese and they have a lot of weight on their joints, and we have to kind of take it slow with them. So that we can get them slowly disciplined, and then we can get them incorporated into more of like a program where they can feel like they're dealing it from the weight loss part and they're doing it from the fitness part. It gets it's like a little bit of a juggling act between the two to get them into that sweet spot. Any thoughts on that?
I do. I don't necessarily use or think the exercise component enhances weight loss. I wouldn't necessarily use the word enhances, but I think they're complementary for many different reasons. And of course, as you mentioned, being discerning about when to send a patient who's obese to you to start them off on an exercise routine is also very critical in how successful they are overall. Because we don't want to send them to you too quickly, because if they really have too much weight and their joints are inflamed and and their body just doesn't move freely enough to get exercise in or the efficient amount of cardio in, then I won't send them to you. But what I think is that exercise in and of itself does a few things, obviously, as you will expand on. That's, improve muscle to fat ratio in the body, and improve cardiovascular function. And certain types of exercise, like weight-bearing exercise, can also increase metabolic rate. So is that accurate? Okay.
I would agree, yes. I mean, it definitely certainly increases metabolic rate, because, everyone that trains with me wears a heart rate monitor, and we track everything, right? We use like a Polar, we have the Polar Beat. We could track all of our workouts from a month ago to current. And we could see on a graph what's going on with people. Are they improving? How many calories are they burning within the time allotted for their exercise? And that's also keeps people honest, right? They work out for an hour. They look at how many calories they burned, and they could lose those calories eating one cupcake. That whole workout could be completely gone, right? We talk about it, right? A female woman, she gets to like maybe in an hour 400 kcals, which is pretty kind of middle of the road. 400 calories is nothing, right? So you really have to think about calories that are coming in and what's being expenditure. I feel for more of the athletic person, I like to choose more eating styles. And say they're not a weight management, right? On my end, right? Say they're an athlete. I like the intermittent fasting for them, but I also like a Paleolithic style diet. I'm kind of like mixing keto with the paleo together if they're doing the intermittent fasting. I like to try to mix them together, but I find paleo kind of works for a lot of people because it has a higher protein and it takes out all the inflammatory foods that tend to irritate people. It takes all the oat, wheat, bran, barley, corn, some of these things out of their diet, and it keeps them more to vegetables and their proteins. And I think most people could be satiated with that diet. I personally do a variation of it, and I find athletes do well enough to have the extra protein in there. How do you feel about adding like a paleo mixed with like a keto kind of mixture?
So I was about to get to that. I just wanted to answer your previous question fully, which I feel like I skipped over just a little bit.
Sure.
I'll catch up to paleo in a second. So what I typically will do is I don't necessarily think, the exercise enhances weight loss, but as we discussed, it definitely is complementary. And what I think, a good nutritionist will do is synchronize their meal plan to their height, weight, age, and their activity level. So the example you were giving about, burning off a brownie or 400 calories. Yes, if someone exercises, they'll burn it off quicker, but then in return, they're hungrier. So the point I wanted to make is if someone exercises, they won't need as much calorie restriction. They'll need more calories because they're going to get too hungry if we restrict the calories, and then their body's going to hold on to every calorie that they're taking in and not use it for fuel. Okay, they're just going to be sustaining and they will not lose weight. But if someone isn't exercising, they need a lot more calorie restriction in order to lose weight because you're relying on the deficit, the calorie deficit of food, not the calories that you burn from exercise. So I just wanted to say that. So if someone is an exerciser, I will synchronize a meal plan that looks very different. They'll have more calories in a person's meal plan who's an exerciser versus fewer calories in a person who does not. So with that said, I think my weight loss programs are typically designed for most people in a Paleolithic style of eating. However, if someone comes to me and they're vegan and they're vegetarian or they're whatever, I will keep them on whatever they're doing. But if they leave it up to me, I do use generally a Paleolithic style of eating, maybe with a few exceptions. But I think that it's the healthiest and most it helps the body detox and reduces inflammation, as you said earlier. Ketogenic is, again, for people, I think, more extreme. It's a more extreme way of eating. So keto is really just, training your body to use fat for fuel instead of glucose for fuel, which we all know how to do. Keto is a little more advanced, and we, train the body to use the glycogen stores for energy. And that's something that we would do with very obese people.
It's interesting. I do a combination of the ketogenic and the Paleolithic, right? So if I'm in my fast and I'm in my cycle, in the morning, I'll make some coffee, bulletproof style, add some MCT oil in it. People say, well, why do you add that in? As you get to the end of that cycle, you could start to feel very hungry, but I like to train on an empty stomach. I like to do that in the morning. I don't want to have any food in my stomach. I want my body to utilize the fat as energy. So as soon as if I put calories in or carbohydrates, it's going to kind of flip that switch off that kind of uses fat as energy. Because I feel like the body, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the body will use glucose as a first fuel source if it's available. Second fuel source will be fat. So if you wake up in the morning and you train on an empty stomach, you just drink a bunch of water. You can put some electrolytes in it, have some water, and then you want to extend that fasting time. I'll have the coffee. There's no calories, there's no sugar, there's no milk, there's nothing yet. Put a little MCT oil in there. And I feel like the MCT oil is a straight ketone. It can be used as energy. It's highly available for the brain to cross the blood-brain barrier. So it gives you good cognitive function, but also makes it easy for you to extend that fast because you feel satiated, because it's like you're not using a lot of MCT oil. I'm using a tablespoon. I'm putting it in my coffee. It's just enough to light the igniter like on a barbecue. Let's use the fat as energy. Now you're exercising and by saying, hey, I need energy. It looks in the stomach. There's no carbohydrates. There's no sugar. Blood sugar is very low because it's first thing in the morning. It's forcing the body to use the fat as energy. Then I'll extend the fast a little bit after, and then I could eat my highly dense foods when I break my fast. If I get my training window in the right sweet spot, when I break my fast, it's after my workout, and then it could be 3 or 4 soft-boiled eggs and some macadamia nuts and some type of protein, and I feel like that kind of works. But I'm using the ketogenic part of it in the morning, right? We're using ketones for energy. That's what the ketogenic diet is. It's using ketones. It's not eating keto bars all day long, which people are missing. That is just advertising and people trying to sell you something. You could generate ketones by just not eating. So I find that kind of really works. And then I incorporate later, you still need to eat carbohydrates, right? You cannot, some people think they're going to be in keto forever. They do it and they go, oh my God, I'm losing all this weight. This is great. But at some point, you need carbohydrates for other functions in the body. You cannot just take them out off of your diet. So at some point, I have to incorporate those later into my meals. So that's when I start to go more into a Paleolithic, right? I need deep vegetables. There's all kinds of important nutrients in there. Chicken, lamb, fish, beef. You could eat all of them in the right portion sizes. So you're kind of mixing a little bit. So the mixture of the keto in the morning with the training, those are the people that are your athletes that want to get super ripped. You could drop down to 12% body fat and be totally functional and feel strong and have tons of energy if you know how to manipulate those two type of diets and use them together. So from a performance standpoint, I like that. But I'm like yourself too. I have people come to me that are vegan, vegetarian, and I tell them it doesn't really matter so much as long as you're able to get those amino acids and proteins. You want to get them from a nut? Go right ahead. You want to get them from some type of protein powder that's from like a pea or from some other source, by all means do that. I personally, like for me personally, Paleolithic style seems to work the best. And it's foods that we all tend to enjoy eating anyway.
Right.
So that's my thoughts on it.
Right.
Any other things you would like to, hopefully this is helpful for some people. We always speak openly when we do our interviews. So.
No, I think it's great. I think, I tried the ketogenic diet myself at some point, and, I was really in really great shape. I mean, the only issue is, the downside is, with these amount of saturated fat can increase cholesterol, but for the most part, it really does work for very obese clients and also for the athletic client, and also more importantly for the group that are diabetic, type 1 or type 2 diabetic clients, because they literally eat in a ketogenic style, which bypasses the pancreas's role completely in the digestive process and in the metabolic process. The pancreas is not involved at all, which means there are no insulin requirements, and that's like a diabetic stream. So that's the other group of people I would recommend eating a ketogenic diet for.
There was also some research, I can't remember who it was, who was talking about how ketogenic diet was used for type 2 diabetics to help them kind of almost recover from type 2 diabetes as well, because it helps like these synapses and stuff kind of like recover a little bit because they're not being overwhelmed with sugar. Any thoughts on that? Or
yes, for type 2 diabetics, it can actually reverse type 2 diabetes. In type 1,
a little different.
Type 1 diabetics are a little different. They're very dependent on insulin, and sometimes using too much insulin and using a ketogenic diet could create conditions that we don't want to go into. They can go into ketoacidosis, which is not a good, not a good state. But
Yeah, so there's not one fix for everyone, but there's certainly ways to manipulate all these different styles of diets and what kind of works for people.
yes, still very customized.
It has to be customized because everyone's very different ethnicities, male, female, different ages, hormone levels. They might have some, health issues. So it has to be customized. There is no way to make a one size fit all with this.
Right.
So those are some of the things we always talk about when we're with our clients, and we work out together all the time. So when we talk about different people that we're working with, and we're always trying to fine tune it because everyone is so different. So we're always trying to fine tune it to make it better until we nail it. And so far we've had great success with all that, which is really nice.
We have.
We certainly have. Well, Carly, it was really great catching up with you to just do a short little interview about it, especially since we have some of the same clients and they ask us questions and they bring us articles and they're emailing us stuff and they're texting us stuff. And we felt it was time to probably address this and try to break it down a little bit. And so anyway, Carly Feigan, thank you for joining me for another interview. It was great seeing you.
Thank you, Steph. Same here. It's great seeing you.
Likewise, I look forward to seeing you in the gym this week, and I will catch up with you then in person. Until then, everyone out there, thank you.